welcome into the Radioactive Paper Cuts podcast. I, of course, am Josh Kennedy. Today, I am joined by the ultra powerful, ultra HD, better than everyone because he's just so stinking talented, Noah King Bates. What are you doing, man? You're just making us all look bad.
You know what? You say that I'm making everyone look bad, but in reality, I'm just constantly tired.
Hey, man, I got a baby. I get it.
Oh yeah. For all of our Grand Rapids listeners, if you are in the Grand Rapids area and you like to laugh, I am in one of three shows right now. The Play That Goes Wrong. It's like a sitcom on the stage. It's lovable. I get crushed. It's fun.
That sounds great. Yeah, that's really cool. You get to do that stuff. I could never be an actor because I can't memorize anything ever. So not going to be my jam. That's okay. Today we're here to talk about The Boys because we had a 3-episode premiere on Friday, and I just want to just start right out. I hate all of you. I hate the 3-episode thing. It's so dumb. I get that you want us to get a lot of content. I think 2 is the number. 2 is the perfect amount because 1 doesn't feel like enough. But 3 just feels like overkill. I had to watch 3 hours of TV the day it comes out. Just space it out a bit, man.
Yeah,
As a podcaster,
you drop on the same time as like Stranger Things. Like, come on, you know us nerds. We have it's just too much. Too much.
Yeah, Kenobi's out right now too. That's another big one, and it's just like we got enough TV to watch. You don't need to give me 3 episodes. I appreciate it, I guess, but I would have been
Marvel's right down the road, like
2 weeks away.
Yeah, they don't want us to have any time.
They're just trying to get us to bail on our other favorite shows, but you're not going to win, studios. Anyway, we're talking about The Boys, episodes 1 through 3. This is season 3. This show's been super exciting stuff. One of my favorite, just like, I laugh at this show a lot, like out loud. It's a comedy, but like it's just over the top gore and just ridiculous nonsense. Like the first death of this season, which we're going to get to, is one of the most ridiculous things that's ever been brought to cinema. And we're going to talk about it because it was so funny.
Comedy. It's the Thanos theory brought to life.
Yeah. Okay. So really we get brought in and we get shown a scene from essentially the Snyder Cut. They made a lot of Snyder Cut jokes, which I appreciated. That's one of the best things about the show is they reference a lot of real life things in pop culture and they just turn it on its head a little bit. So we're introduced, and apparently Stormfront is now the bad villain of this new movie, and Homelander defeats her with his team, the rest of the 7, and it's wonderful. It's cool to watch. I love how introspective and meta everything is about the show. How did you feel about the Snyder stuff right up top?
I mean, as the actual fan of the Snyder Cut, I thought it was hilarious. I love the fact that they did reshoots. Like when you think about it, they had to do reshoots because life turned on its head, and that's very much in the realm of like studios just like being like, oh no, we can't put this out now. We got to change everything. We got to do all this. I thought it was hilarious. I thought that the teamwork, even though you know how disjointed the boys are, like every time they were like, but we're a team. The 7 will defeat you. I'm like, you guys are the most disjointed, unlovable group of people ever.
That's true. Yeah. And it's just the show's premise is just perfect. And the fact that we get to witness it is just, it's so funny. They're like, yeah, what if superheroes were real? And this is exactly what would actually happen if there were superheroes. They would be celebrities. They would get all this praise. They would probably be dicks. That's a fact.
Oh, for sure.
Probably not the Homelander level, but like the ego on these guys has got to be crazy.
I don't know. I mean, not to get like, I'm not gonna get political, but you got to take into account these level of like the way that superheroes are in this show are politicians.
True. That's a good point.
Yeah, and they're politicians mixed with celebrities, and certain politicians are celebrities to a degree. So you got to take into account that like they have the ego and like overall just status of celebrities, but they have the power. When you think of like when Homelander says something, he has the power to do it. He has a politician's level of like, oh, I can do this, and no one's
and that gets embraced in the future episodes as well.
Yes, I mean, even spoiler alert, the politician they have being all 3 things.
Yeah, the fact that like That's a really good point. They kind of are politicians, and like, we're not going to get political on the show, like you said, but there are certain political figures where you're just like, you are a ridiculous person. Why is everyone paying attention to you? So, we won't name any names.
No names. We don't want them finding us.
No, we don't need you coming at us. But yeah, the Snyder Cut jokes were great. The secretary / consultant for the studio, she's getting a more of a highlighted role. I don't know how I feel about that through these first 3 episodes, but she starts banging the director in the stall, so that's something.
Yeah, I mean, my main issue with her is, and it's one of those things where like you can empathize with like the stuff that she's going through, because yeah, she's the closest. Like if something goes wrong, she's the first one to probably die. True. But the amount of like disdain she has like grown for just regular people has become like just like enormous over these, like, and that comes from the stress of almost dying. Like she's pulling out her hair, she's turned that into almost like a sexual like release.
Dealing with Homelanders a lot, as you can tell.
Yes, but the way that she handles it as an outside viewer is uncomfortable, and you just don't root for her. Like a part of me is like, I hope you get out of this alive, but a good chunk of me is like, I kind of hope you die a good death.
Well, that's all they give us, Noah, is really epic deaths, and we might as well talk about it. We're introduced to a character called Termite, who's an Ant-Man spinoff. Very funny. We're introduced to him because he's banging a Barbie doll for a party, and everyone's cheering him on. Not sure why that was included, but sure, why not? And then he goes with his boyfriend. They go to the room, get a little frisky to be nice about it. And, This is an explicit podcast, so we're going to say fuck, we're going to say dick. It's okay.
Yeah, this isn't the Marvel podcast. If you want PG, go there.
Yeah, true that. And so he gets small, and his boyfriend wants him to crawl inside of his penis. Not sure why, but we get to see a massive CGI dick with the urethra and watch a man walk into it. Noah, did we ever think that we'd have to view this as a viewer? Dude. I mean, if any superhero thing was gonna show this, it was either The Boys or The Pro. Which, if you haven't read The Pro, it is about a superhero prostitute. Oh,
it is bonkers. Yeah, it's bonkers, but it's actually pretty funny. So if anyone was gonna do it right now, it was gonna be The Boys. But I think I was gonna see a man rubbing the inside of a urethra. No, I didn't.
No. But, they're sniffing coke, and to the coke sniffers out there, I'm sure a lot of people know that once you sniff it irritates your nose a little bit, so you might have to sneeze. And I guess he somehow activates his power by sneezing while he's in his lover's penis, and it was a dick-splosion. The craziest death that they've done so far.
Which, that being said, that is a terrible thing for your power. Like, you're telling me in all of his fights, he's never gotten a tingly nose. He's never, like...
Especially someone that snorts that much coke. It's
exactly
a regular issue.
But you would think out of nowhere, that's wear a mask, like something. Maybe he has a mask on usually, where like dust particles. But maybe again, like you said, all the coke sniffing, you're probably sneezing a lot.
Yeah. Well, Frenchie intervenes right after the explosion. The man is naked. That it's almost progressive of this show, because they not only show half naked women, they show fully naked men. So inclusivity, I suppose. But man's covered in guts and blood, and Frenchie's just like, "Hey, man, I didn't see anything." But really, Termite tries to go and attack Frenchie by being small. I think he was aiming for his asshole. I don't know. Whatever it was.
Well, Frenchie says his asshole. We because he's going up his pants. We never see him going towards his asshole.
That's true. It could have been anything. But Kamiko steps in, stops that situation from happening, and then Butcher catches him in a dime bag and just shakes him up and makes him overdose. Not to the point of death, but he definitely overdoses. That collection of scenes was just exactly what you'd expect from the first 15 minutes of The Boys.
I mean, like I said, it was the Thanos theory. I think that was the joke. there was all that talk back in the day where like, oh, Ant-Man could have killed Thanos by like shrinking and going into his ass and then exploding.
I forgot about that meme that went around for a good year after Infinity War or Endgame or whatever it was.
Or it could easily.
Well, I mean, that's another situation where they're just like, they acknowledge what's happening in the world and they're like, hey, let's make a joke about this. Following this, we're introduced to government worker Huey. He works for the Department of Superhuman Affairs, a new branch of government, and he's a professional. Seems like it'd be interesting. We're not going to try and spoil the next 2 episodes. I kind of want to talk about each of them individually. So, in this, I wrote down I was intrigued. What did you feel about Government Huey?
I really enjoy Government Huey, and we're going to talk a little bit later about like more stuff, but I loved Government Huey. I thought that his role in that area, especially after working with Butcher and them, was justified. And I liked Government Huey, and I really want more out of it, if I can say it that way.
Yeah, it's we'll get to why that's a little disappointing, but yeah, at the time seemed interesting. Things seem to be going well for him and Starlight, so that's also
I love their relationship. I think their relationship is really good.
They very much copied Luke Cage saying like, let's go get coffee, but instead it's just go get the Aquafresh, which very funny. We all saw it. It was great. I will say we finally get into Vought Tower following this, and on the TV is Robert Singer, which was a great Supernatural reference. And it was total fan service because that character, I believe his name is Jim Beaver, if I recall correctly. His last name is Beaver. I believe it's Jim. He plays Bobby Singer in the Supernatural show, which they named Bobby Singer after a producer on Supernatural. So it's just kind of this weird, like, full circle thing.
Full circle.
He's the politician here, and he seems like he's going to be interesting. But we didn't get introduced to him. We just got a quick little glimpse on the TV. I had to make sure we noted that that's a fun Supernatural thing. But Giancarlo Esposito playing Stan Edgar, still intimidating as always. He's great.
I love that man so much. His ability to just be equal parts dad to equal parts dad you fear, like, is amazing. And one scene in one of the later episodes truly encases that when he's just having a conversation after reading. You read the kiddiest book, and then afterwards I was just like, oh, I know you're a good parent, but this is terrifying.
Yeah, he's great. So we'll get to more of him. I like how, following that, Storm Chaser, of course, has a fringe group of people that agree with her. So I was like, this is hitting a little close to home, guys. Because Stormfront, when I say, well, the crew that follows her, I believe they call themselves
called
Storm Chasers. I think so. But yeah, Stormfront is the character, and that's it was eerie, I would say, because they kind of touched on it in the Batman as well, where Riddler had a fringe group of people that were agreeing with his methods as well. It's an accurate representation of society, no matter how drastic your view of anything is. You're going to have some sort of weird people supporting it. Like, there are still Nazis out there, guys, and they've been known as the villains of society for 80 years or whatever. So we just got to acknowledge it. Like, that's pretty accurate that her being a Nazi. And then everyone's like, yep, all right, I side with Stormfront. Oh, whatever.
I don't get it.
They're building up, I wrote down, in the show, the producers are building up a Cap versus Superman fight, which that's going to be legendary. I cannot wait to see that. Because, a lot of people saw... Homefront as a combination of Superman and Captain America. But really, he's more like Zod, and then he wears the American flag. So that's kind of all he has in common to this, society. He seems like a combo of the two. But
if I were to mix them, I would take the Iron Patriot Norman Osborn with Superman, because then you get that fake Americanism of I'm the good guy. Look at me. I have this. I'm part of this organization. In reality, that organization is not good. So it's definitely Dark Avengers mixed with Superman.
Yep, and I am here for it. Jensen Ackles, I've touched on how great I like. I mean, he's a great actor. He played the voice of Jason Todd in Under the Red Hood. Supernatural, he's great. I mean, he's done a handful of other things. He's just a super talented actor.
He's also voiced Batman. He's the only person who's voiced Robin and Batman.
That's true. He's the only one that's done that so far. Well, no, that's not true. I don't think. Troy Baker, I believe, played. Maybe not. Troy Baker played Joker. That's what it was.
Yeah, he played Joker.
Played Joker in Arkham Origins, and then he played Nightwing in Injustice. So, yeah, okay. So I stand corrected. Following this, we get the government figure Vicky. I forget her last name. She has the kind of dude that seems like he's strung out on drugs, calling her Nadia, and has that interaction with Huey. Tony, yes. There's a little bit of intrigue there. I wrote it down. I was like, this is interesting. I feel like this is going to go somewhere, and obviously it does. But that's kind of where they close it at the end of the first episode. This episode was entitled Payback. How did you feel about our intro back into the universe of The Boys?
So, I really enjoyed it. It's one of those weird things where I'm trying to figure out if these 3 episodes could have been spliced into just 2 really good episodes.
Yeah.
Because like we said, 3 episodes, as much as a lot of people probably enjoyed it, that's just a lot. When they want you to binge it, that's just a lot to take in. 2 hours. But, I mean, maybe they took on the effect of, like, how movies nowadays with the Batman and Snyder Cut are 3 hours long. They're like, people will sit and watch that, but it's a lot.
It is a lot. I mean, I'm a little biased as a podcaster. I was quite frustrated with The Witcher when that season came out because it was all of it at once. But even Netflix is starting to take note that, like, you want to be part of a conversation for longer than a couple weeks. So now, like, Ozark was divided in half. Stranger Things is now divided in half. So they're starting to, like, notice that, like, we don't really want to be the focus of conversation for, like, one weekend and then just forgotten about. And I believe that's a smart way to handle it.
Yeah, and I mean, Disney Plus being like, and Amazon Prime is good. Amazon and Disney Plus are good at the fact of, like, they do still, like, next week a new episode comes out. But
same with HBO Max, yeah. I mean, everyone else is kind of doing that. So, I stand by my opinion that 3 episodes is too much, but that's okay.
Yeah, I think Netflix, the only reason they don't change their viewpoint is because they were the originators of the binge.
Mm-hmm. That's what they're known for, so they're trying to move away from it. But, like, Netflix is in hot water. Everybody knows that they increased their premium prices, canceled a bunch of shows no one wanted canceled, so they're not having a good time. They had to cancel a bunch of animation projects people were looking forward to because they dropped so much money, and it's like, yeah, man, this is what happens. Like, you're starting to charge cable prices. I'm sorry that you didn't think of that, you stupid people.
Yeah, but if you buy Legend of Tomorrow, I will stay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not getting rid of Netflix anytime soon. I mean, they have enough good stuff that, like, I'm frustrated, but obviously I'm not going to walk away quite yet. There's a lot of good stuff coming down the line, even if they canceled a few things. So let's move on to episode 2. This one was entitled The Only Man in the Sky. Another interesting introduction where the other one, it was showing a quick scene from the 7 movie. And this one, it starts with a trailer for the Deep's new adaptation of his book entitled Deeper. Now, this I've even put a note on. One, it's essentially a play off Oxygen TV because it's like TV for women or whatever. And I think it's pretty funny. But they hit on the whole controversy. Did you watch The Vow yourself on HBO Max? It's a docuseries.
The Vow?
The Vow, yeah, that's the name of it.
No, I have not.
Okay, well, it's another, like, pop culture thing where back in the early 2000s, I believe, there was it's a cult entitled NXIVM, and there was a lot of famous people that were a part of it. And,
Smallville actress.
Yeah, Smallville actress. Luke's aunt from the Star Wars prequels, like, she was part of it as well. I watched the whole series, which, you guys, if you're into that type of thing, go check out that docuseries on HBO Max. It's talking about Kyle Raniere, but they make a reference that the Deep is like, you guys branded me with your initials, and that's actually something that they did over at NXIVM, is the combination of Keith Raniere's initials, and then like the other main girl, like they made this weird logo out of their initials to make people get branded with it, and it was super messed up. So yet another instance of them like referencing real life situations, which I was a big fan of. I'm not sure if everyone caught that, but it was fun.
A fun little note on a comic book standpoint is the man in the sky is a direct quote from The Boys when it was like early on. It was how they like someone talking about Homelander, and it is a quote directly from the book.
That's cool. I put another note here. The episode goes a little forward, and Butcher's he's given the serum. He hasn't used it yet at this point, but I was like, Butcher as a soup could be a fun and interesting story. Clearly, we got to see a little bit more of that in the future, but I made sure to note that. How did you feel about Stormfront still being alive in this? Because in the first episode, in a little bit of the second episode, I wrote this down obviously before the third episode, but I thought it was weird. It's like, why include this?
I mean, it makes sense because of Stormfront's powers that, like, yeah, I didn't necessarily think of her as dead. And Vought is known for keeping people on ice. So, like, that's just, and it's a big comic book thing. Oh, they died. Not really. They're being reborn in a lab somewhere. Like, it's very comic booky. To the point where later on, when we find out what happens to her, I was like, oh, nah, I still don't believe it.
Yeah, we'll get to what happened to her. I just wrote it down. The weird relationship where like she only has one working like appendage, and she just uses it to jerk off Homelander. I'm like, God, this show sometimes. but I mean, it's like that's what they're known for. So
yeah, that's what they're known for. It's what they're known for, and the fact that like we've seen Homelander, which I have to applaud Anthony Starr, like time and time again.
He's so good at playing that character because he's so hateable. He's the worst.
I watched an HBO Max show about him, not about him, but he was the main character where he was like, he was ex-convict who then like becomes sheriff of this town, and he has to pretend to be the sheriff. It's really good, and I very much, it was like, I had watched season 1 of The Boys, and then I jumped onto that show.
You should look up the name of that and let me know, because I'm interested to give that a shot. But I just wanted to make a side note. Okay, so now we're going to the theme park, because they're investigating Soldier Boy and his death, because they view anything that could kill Soldier Boy could probably kill Homelander. I like the thought process there. I love this through line through the story. It's more just building up to an awesome Soldier Boy, story throughout this season. So it's great. They go to the theme park, and it's Mav's inclusive kingdom with the woke walk and all the other stupidly named food stands. I put a note here, which I talked about in length on my buddy Darius's podcast. Don't Argue with Idiots. Go check that out. It was last June that I was on this episode, and it very much embraces. I don't think it was any accident that this show premiered during Pride Month, and how it fully acknowledges like the fact that corporations just milk the crap out of it, and it's just a lot of virtue signaling, which has always bothered me quite a lot. Like, either be all the way in or all the way out. You should be supportive of that, but like, why is Crest toothpaste posting a rainbow picture? Like, what are we doing here? It's just virtue signaling. Whatever. That's a side tangent, but they definitely embraced that quite a bit on the theme park thing. What did you think of that whole situation?
I find it funny, and I always it's back to that whole like these characters are larger than life, so like whenever they do something it becomes like this statement, this huge thing, and it's really intriguing the way that we see later on with A-Train.
Yeah. No, we're gonna get to A-Train.
Because like Vaught's all in on this pride. And they constantly bring up diversity when they talk about the Seven. They're like, oh, well, this will help with this demographic, or this will help with this demographic. But they just...
We're going to talk about, was it episode 3, throughout this competition, the Silver Kincaid or something like that.
She's introduced, I think, in this episode, because they bring up the the American hero, the American Gladiator.
Essentially, American Gladiator, American Idol, whatever you want to do.
Bachelorette.
The Bachelorette. They're making a competition who gets to be in the 7 because what's his face, Invisible Dude, died in the previous season, so they're no longer the 7, and they're trying to fill 2 spots because the Deep was also kicked out, and they made it into like a reality TV show, which of course they did. Like, I love how accurate this show is to exactly what would happen if we had heroes. Even the actors that play heroes, they play on that thing, so it's absolutely ridiculous, and it's very funny. I didn't put a note on that, but that's definitely worth noting.
Yes, and then just kind of I loved the awkward wokeness. I thought that was hilarious. But then we got introduced to the Crimson Countess, and while that's happening, we also get introduced to Gunpowder. 2 completely different characters who worked under Soldier Boy when you look at it, because like one is like this singer who's like is in this woke amusement park.
Yep.
And then the other is this gun toting.
I loved it. Oh my god, the dichotomy there was perfectly placed. How they separated into 2 teams. They're like, yeah, they were both part of Soldier Boy's like circle, but she's part of this woke scenario. And I think she's another example of being like fake woke. I don't think she actually cares at all. She's an old lady who's just kind of trying to make money. She's having tea parties with little girls to make an extra few bucks. So, God, I don't like her. I can't wait for her to get a dope death. But
we also we get introduced back to my favorite character, and I'm happy and upset that he came back, and that's Mother's Milk.
Yeah, I love his character throughout the first 2 seasons. I did make a note somewhere that like, I put Mother's Milk story is meh in the first 3 episodes. I'm like, I mean, I like him, but his storyline kind of bores me. He's just like, well, I'm trying to get myself out of the life for my daughter and stuff. And it feels, I don't know if I want to say out of place, but just like unnecessary, because he already kind of touched on how he's going to be giving that life up. I guess showing a little bit of him struggling is fine, but he's taking up a lot of screen time just trying to go away from teaming up with Butcher.
Which, that's like I wish that there was more of a through line on why he chose to come back, and they're pretty much sticking to like Soldier Boy is the reason that his family, is
I like
gone.
That part was great. The fact that they wrote that little backstory to like Soldier Boy's the reason his family's dead. I'm like, okay, that makes perfect sense. Like, this is fine.
I just wish that him joining the team and his like, because he brought up the fact that they sold cocaine to African, like his
to like the minority communities. It was,
and the fact that he's still working with them, like I'm like, nah, that's the part where you go and start doing stuff on your own. But I do love the soldier back from war feel that he gives. Like he tried to get out, and then he's trying like the stepdad. Credit to this stepdad.
Oh yeah, he's a perfect stepdad. It reminds me of the step. Like, I mean, there are different types of people, but like the stepdad relationship in the Ant-Man movies.
Yeah.
Where he's the cop and like obviously the dad's the criminal, and it's like, okay, they got a little bit of an interesting rapport there. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see Mother's Milk going forward. I just didn't care for his story so far. That's all I had to say.
I do hope it gets better, but it does. It has started off very dry. But that be like each of the boys themselves, in these first 3 episodes, there was a part where I was just like, I don't know why this is in here.
Yeah, I don't know. We can talk about Gunpowder though real quick. I loved that the way that Butcher got him to get hyped up is because he was saying that like they had a gay relationship. I'm like, oh my god, they're making Soldier Boy
Batman
and Robin. Oh my god, I loved that. So
although the Bucky and Cap thing, there was talk about that as well.
Yeah, so. But not to the extent of Batman and Robin, because that was like a focus of tabloids even back in like the 60s and 70s, and like they had this. There was one out of context like panel that was posted all over the newspapers. It was them sharing a bed and like, oh, we got to get up together and go work out. And everyone's like, nope, that's not okay. And like one time in a like 80 years of the characters, they like maybe had something that felt similar to being in a inappropriate, pedophile type relationship, which is no good. So I'm glad they really just kind of did that with Soldier Boy and Gunpowder. I'm like, yep, it's exactly how people would react yet again.
Yeah, and I mean that I thought that was a cool change because in the OG comic, like he's not a sidekick at all. He is like
oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, you've got a little bit more background than I do because I haven't read the boys' comic books. I might someday, but I haven't yet. So it's cool that they made that change.
Yeah, I thought that was a cool little change to really point out the not joke, but the whole sidekick genre or the whole side young ward thing, like, and Butcher being the person to do it. Like, he's the only person in this universe who just blatantly says things that people think, even though they might not be kosher or like a right way to go about it.
That's true. I want to talk about Homelander's like announcement, but we should probably touch on a couple other things because one, the end of this episode, which we're going to get to in a second, I think it was the perfect way. They should have ended it and then had an episode next week. I think it would have been great, but that's beside the point. The competition American Hero or whatever it was called. Was that right?
American Hero.
Yeah. Starlight's got an ex-boyfriend. We didn't touch on him at all. He's
a pop singer.
He's a pop singer, and like, yeah, that song was stupid, inappropriate for children.
Mad inappropriate.
License to drive. When she's 16, he's like, I was 18 when I sang that song, and it was creepy then. Now I'm an adult. Like, true, but like that's some of the stuff that like I imagine that's pop star stuff I gotta handle nowadays. So even that was kind of related to reality a little bit. But
yeah, how often do you think Justin Bieber is singing "Baby" now? Like that?
He does once in a while, but yeah, this is mad inappropriate. I mean, he's long gone are the days of glow bowling for the billion hits on YouTube. But yeah, that's just kind of it's adding a wedge. He's just adds another element to the story where Huey's jealous and Starlight's like, dude, you shouldn't be jealous. Classic stuff. You just gotta throw it in there. You can't just have people be happy in a relationship. That's boring.
Ew, no. Which, yeah, I mean, I complete that's the thing that like we really see how insecure Huey is throughout the all of the seasons.
Yeah,
because him and
Starlight on this one for sure.
Yeah, this one is like, because like even me, I'm just like, dude, like. Not like she's clearly not interested until she keeps seeing how Huey's not listening to her, and he's the person who's prying more than Supersonic is. Like he's creating he's creating the wedge, and I find that like we know where if you watch enough drama, you kind of know where things could lead.
It's a tale as old as time. So what can you do about it? That's another one where like it's pretty accurate to reality. I mean, I just can't give the show enough props for really doing that. But let's get to Homelander. He is irritated because his pull points are going down. Starlight's are shooting up. She's got the highest of all time, a 96 approval rating or something like that. And she gets promoted to co-captain. Now, is this something that happened in the comic books, Noah, or is this just something they did for the show?
Something they did for the show, at least from as far as I got pretty far, but from what I remember, so there was never like a co-captain thing. Also, Starlight is a way bigger focus point in this in the show than she is in the
that makes
comic.
Some sense. Side note, I've been rewatching Jessica Jones, and I didn't realize that she's Kilgrave's second victim in season 1, and it's the same actress. I'm like, nice. Right where I watch The Boys, but she's great. She's playing her character to a T. Homelander has his annual birthday celebration. People aren't about it during rehearsal. I think it was rehearsal. He gives a pretty much hate-filled speech about how much he's irritated with people. I put in my notes, I was like, classic Homelander being a dick to everyone all the time, but it's finally on camera. And this is where I think they should have ended the like release for opening night, because it seems like at the end of that episode, you could see the audience completely turning against him. Obviously, we're going to get into episode 3, and that's not what happened. But the fact that you could watch that immediately after he did it kind of bothered me. I'm like, you could have had a cliffhanger and then had the episode next week, but that's just my thoughts. How did you feel about his speech and, you know?
Well, I can tell you how I felt about it. Yeah, I was gonna say I can tell you how I felt about his speech as a human. It was disgusting. As a watcher, I was like, all right, this is going to create, and I just knew in the back of my head, I was like, they're gonna love it. That just shows how America is. They're gonna love it. And I was so, when they're like, yeah, your points are up, I was like, you bitch, I hate this so much. I hate this so much.
Yeah, and it's I gotta quit saying it's accurate, but it was funny as hell is what it was. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much predictable. But his points get moved up. He feels like he's got a little bit of a boost now, and now he's got some, because they have the flight video, the video 30 from Flight 37.
Yeah,
that was in season 1 or 2 that they showed that originally.
If it's in 2, is at the beginning of 2, or if it's at 1, it's at the end of 1.
Well, I mean, that's the thing that really like drove the wedge between Mauve and Homelander. So
yeah,
I like how that's staying within the story, so that's good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing with that is like, and now what they're doing with Starlight and him and Supersonic and Huey is just like, oh my god, this is becoming so.
There's a lot of layers to it.
There's so many awkward layers.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's great writing. It's perfect. Now that he knows he can kind of be himself, he's like, oh man, you guys, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah, I had to pretend to be nice to you guys. I
can just do what I want. And it's like, oh no, that's not what you want. You don't want an unhinged Homelander on to the public as well. And Starlight obviously tries to get ahead of it and threatens to post the video. And he said, do it. I got nothing going for me at that point. And then he said like what he would do to destroy the world if he lost his job. And we're like, oh my god, you got this thought out.
And even the psychological warfare he does to A-Train and the Deep in this episode.
Yeah.
Because he keeps talking about A-Train's weight.
Yeah, he does. He keeps bringing it up.
He keeps bringing it up, and he can tell that it is just hitting the sorest spot with A-Train. And then with the Deep, here's the thing, the Deep started off as a terrible character, and you're not, and then you try to see him as an actual human redeem himself throughout these seasons. You see him go through a cult, you see him try to climb back, he tries to save a whale and it turns out terrible. Like, he's trying to like repent and it just keeps not going well for him.
Yeah.
And now he has this wife and he's like, I get to come back. Like, he genuinely believes he gets to come back to the Seven. I think he genuinely is sorry for what he's done to Starlight. I truly believe he's trying to go through this. But that scene where Homelander and his wife, because she's somehow in on it, make him eat that
Timothy the octopus.
that is when I truly was like, all right, I actually do feel bad for this man.
Yeah.
And it hurt, and part of me is like, ugh, I don't want that. But I mean, he's trying and it's just not working.
Yeah. One of the highlights of the show is there's so many characters with so many different storylines. And one that we haven't even really talked about yet, which was a little bit of a focus, was Butcher and Homelander's son and how they're starting to bond and stuff because he's the son of his ex-wife, I believe. Yeah.
Who he thought was dead.
Right, and she wasn't dead, and that's a fun story. I enjoy his like banter back and forth, how he's trying to avoid being a father, but he's slowly becoming the kid's father. And obviously in episode 3, which we're about to start talking about, he kind of flushes it all down the drain a bit, and that's no good. But let's talk about episode 3. It is entitled Barbary Coast, and my first note: the boys are back together. Finally, they're all back under the same roof, on the same side, and it's great. Did you feel like any sort of like relief, or were you pumped to see them all kind of gather back together? You kind of knew it was going to happen, but I knew it was gonna
happen again. I feel like the return of the boys should have slowly trickled in over time. The fact that we got them all back in this, like, again, mother's milk. I wanted more of him solve, like, I know he knew Soldier Boy was the cause. I wanted it to be like a murder mystery for him. I wanted him to just be, while he's trying to be a parent, while he's like trying to be a single dad.
That would have been.
And then him just like while she's building the vault thing, him like going through newspapers, and it's taking away from him being a dad, even though that's what he's trying to do.
Yeah, it's implied that he's doing that, but they should have shown it more. And like they focused a lot on his like OCD thing when they could have focused more on him doing all like, you know, Yarn's Beautiful Mind type of stuff, and it would have been a little bit more fun to watch because they could have extended it, like you said. But here we are. It's fine. Yeah,
and then Huey, again, I would have preferred them attacking Vought from all sides. I thought Huey staying in the... I mean, he's still...
He's technically still part of it, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, like the joining Butcher this early just seems so... And then, again, it's because of Butcher and the boys that we get Lying Huey, which is causing a rift. Although I do enjoy the fact that there's always, like, a lie, and then as a good relationship, they immediately tell each other after the lie, which I'm like, then why lie? Right. Why lie in the first place if you're immediately
just back right down and surrender? Yeah, the boys being back together is fine. We haven't even talked about Frenchie and Kamiko much. Their storyline's another one where it's like, I'm glad they're getting some context, but it doesn't feel all that important. Whatever, it's fine. Episode 3, obviously the boys are back together. We go to visit Grace Mallory and Homelander's son in another safe house. And I suppose take it from there. How did you feel about this whole thing unfolding?
I mean, by doing that, we finally get the part that I got genuinely the most excited about, which was the flashback.
Yeah, I put it down as a note, like, oh, finally, we got our first full scene of Soldier Boy and the Payback team in episode 3, and he's been, like, the thing that, you know, they're building up to.
Yes, I was like, oh, sweet, we're finally getting in, like, we got young, it's not
Black
Steven.
Noir.
But yeah, we got young Black Noir with him talking, which I thought was cool, because in the comics, I don't know how much, again, of the comics you know, Black Noir is a clone of Homelander in the comics.
Oh, I didn't know that. Interesting.
Yep. So sadly, that is a spoiler. But I like how he is his own devised character in this. And the way that they really bring up the fact, again, it brings back that diversity. I don't want to wear a mask. I want to be like a front and center hero. And Giancarlo's younger self is like, I'm sorry, dude. We're not leaders.
Well enough, yeah.
Yeah, we're not leader. We are not the face of anything right now. And then coming, like, I was like, oh, that gave me Isaiah Bradley level. Like,
I thought the same thing. I was like, this is very similar to the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Isaiah Bradley being the experiment or whatever. Yeah, I mean, like the fact that they're hitting both ends of the spectrum as far as like African American representation, where A-Train is the epitome of like, I don't know if you want to call it black privilege. Like he's lived a very privileged life. He doesn't care about his hometown at all. He kind of he's like, I'm rich and famous now. He's like, I'm Michael Jordan, not Malcolm X. I'm like, man, you just are a tool.
Oh yeah, he gives pure Floyd Mayweather level, like,
yeah.
Or even like Lil Wayne, where like you see some of these black icons, we'll call them, who have risen through the ranks, climbed on the top of other black people, and then once they become so wealthy, so rich, I'm beyond black, I'm rich, it doesn't matter anymore. Like Lil Wayne says that he's never felt racism because he is rich.
Yeah, I mean it sucks, but I mean, again, yeah, it's a reflection of society. So the fact that they hit out both ends, like, yeah, back in the day, he wasn't allowed to have his mask off because he was black. I like how they explained why he does wear the mask now. I put as a note,
why he can't talk.
I got Black Noir, I got Two-Face, is what I wrote down.
Yeah, and then again, that also explains why he doesn't talk anymore. Like,
right,
completely destroyed. But I mean, and that's again the hard part where like you're starting to see there's this beautiful scene between A-Train and his brother, where someone's like, someone died because of this other hero who's like known to be like racist. And he's like, oh man, I'll send the money. Like, dude, they don't want a handout. They want someone to speak up. They don't want your money. And I was like,
I wrote that down because I think A-Train might actually become relevant. Like, he might, like, this show is known for, you know, putting characters to the extreme and making them very unlikable. But there's also, like, everyone kind of likes a redemption arc. So I could see A-Train getting to embrace that a little bit because he's no longer fast or relevant really to, he's got to keep his image up, which he went about it the wrong way clearly by just putting on a bunch of like African tribe colors and like trying to seem like he cared about his history. And the pitch meeting was a funny scene in itself.
Oh god, that pitch meeting.
Oh yeah, he's just like, yeah, we should make a video game about slave trade. Like, bro, what?
What? For me, when they go, what? I was so blown away by that like whole interaction. And then the guy is from like season 1 who like truly did like in the comics, not in the comic, in the show, lose his dick because he had sex with like the like Ice Queen or something like that, and she froze it off and it broke. So the fact that he brought that up, I was just like, ooh, that's such a throwback. But I love that actor because he was in one of my other favorite shows, Better Off Ted, and watching him be the token black guy who was supposed to hype him up, but he felt so uncomfortable.
He's like, dude, I can't hype you up right now. You're being whack.
Yeah, like, dude, like, you are trying to turn a game about the slave trade and you're pitching it to these white ones. Like, this is not okay. This is so awful.
This is so far from okay. Yeah. A-Train, he's been pretty terrible the last couple episodes. And like I said, he's trying to find some way to kind of put himself within the niches and stuff. But in adventuring through this, now he's with his brother. I genuinely think he might have a bit of a redemption arc. But I like the way this episode was written because obviously at the beginning of the episode we had the introduction, Butcher fight, he's got the powers, and obviously Gunpowder was defeated at the in the last episode, which was fun in itself. He went crazy, cut him in half with he beat him to death, and then he sawed his body in half with laser vision. But in this episode, we start talking to Grace, and then he literally makes the flashback stop so he can go throw up. And then instead of going straight back to that, they cut to different scenes. I'm like, that's so well done. Dividing a flashback, I was like, that's so cool the way you did that. But
I really like that. But because we didn't really get to talk about Butcher like gaining his powers, the moment that he did that, I was like, oh, hypocrite. Like it finally became that moment where I was like, no, you are now that thing that you hate. So why are you now justified?
That's the thing about the boys. There's no real hero. Like maybe Huey for now, but like even he's gonna do something shitty later. So.
I guess like Huey and Starlight are at top tier. They're like Kimiko and Frenchie are like right under that with Mother's Milk. And then but they've worked with the boys. They have killed heroes before, except Kimiko, who's just sadly Cassandra Cain. Like
can't talk. Yeah.
Can't talk, assassin. Like she's truly like the truly like unsung hero because now she is trying to redeem herself, and even when she kills, she's not happy about it. She doesn't like that lifestyle. She does it for protection of her friends.
Yeah.
But yeah, the moment he did that, I was like, he has no 2 feet to stand on, and the fact that he's keeping it a secret, I think is going to be a huge turning point for the boys later on when they do learn. And they are like, oh, you became that thing that you fought so hard to stop.
True. Yeah, it's crazy that he did eventually cave. I mean, we knew it was going to happen based on the trailers, and the trailers, I thought maybe like he had some like late onset powers. I didn't think he would have taken like a serum or something, but it makes a lot of sense. I put Butcher fighting. His powers are cool when he did actually get to use them. I was like, that's neat. I enjoy that. Some tension in the previous episodes we didn't touch on where Homelander visited him in his home and they were like having a verbal chess match of sorts. That was a fun scene.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Back to episode 3. the deep getting added back to the 7 is going to add layers to this story. So probably smart to do it the way they did. You hit it right on the head. I think he might get like full redemption arc where he teams up with Starlight and Huey. I mean, obviously Starlight's going to be a big fan of that, and Supersonic, and they're going to eventually defeat Homelander, or at least get him kicked out of the 7. I mean, I don't know if they're ever going to get to defeat him. We'll see, because we're going to get, I mean, obviously we're going to get Soldier Boy. We haven't seen it yet, but I'm pretty heavily convinced that it's just copying Winter Soldier's story, where his body gets taken, he gets frozen, and used as an agent. And that's kind of what I wrote down. We can talk more about the flashback scene now, so tell me what you liked about that.
So, I mean, overall, I just love it. It gave first Avengers feels through and through.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that it was the first Avengers, but done slightly more realistically in terms of like, oh, look, it's the badass woman soldier and the super soldier. Of course they're going to fall in love. And he's spitting out those... Yeah, he's spitting out those lines that, like, if said by Chris Evans, Captain America, to someone, oh my God, it's a panty wetter.
It's a panty dropper, yeah.
But the fact that she's like, that doesn't work the way you think it does.
I loved that. I wrote that down. I was like, lol, Soldier Boy flirting with Officer Grace. It was just super funny, man, because, like, she was not about that life, and he was trying to use the flirt game that, like, works in comic books and comic book movies, but would never work in real life. Like, yeah, that's perfect.
And she was like, "No, they only go out with you because they are afraid." Like, and I was like, "Yeah, I mean, kind of right." When you look at that old picture of like one of the most iconic pictures of all time, where that woman is being kissed by the sailor after coming home, and people have talked to her, and she's like, "No, that was not."
Sensual.
Yeah, that was not. I did not like that at all.
Yeah, it's like, dude, it's so famous though. It's
like, and that's where and she probably saw none of that money. That's the even worse part. Yeah, some things about episode 3 outside of the flashback, the war fight, the wonderful looking at Black Noir and why he doesn't talk and why he has to wear his mask. Even that moment where he's reaching for his mask because he can't get up, I thought was beautifully shot. I think even the overall, like, the gray sepia tones that they did for the flashback, everything about the flashbacks to me were super, super nice. Some things that we didn't touch on is the fact that the final 3 of the American heroes.
I've got that written down.
Yeah, I was like, it was a black woman, a Middle Eastern woman, and a Hispanic man. And they were like, okay, like,
only
they were giving
two allowed in.
Right, only one of you's allowed in, and they picked the man, and they were like, oh, but we have another spot. And I was like, and then they're like, also another man. I was like, that is the most beautiful note of like misogyny at its finest.
Oh, it was so messed up. Yeah, no, it was perfect because Starlight, like, because she thought she had final say. She's like, we should get Silver Cicada. She's the most qualified representative of the UN, but she wears a hijab or whatever, and Homelander would never allow that. And what they say about the black woman, they're like, she's body positive but still fuckable. I'm like, Jesus.
Yeah, the way that they break down your worth in this show is so intriguing. And I mean, hateful, but intriguing, because you got to take into account, like, when you are seen as a celebrity, when you're broken down that way.
Yep.
As an actor, I'm broken down a very specific way when I'm standing in front of a director. Because first thing they see is me. So they go, all right, black guy, mid-20s range, kind of built, like, that's how they, and before I open my mouth, that's all they see, that's all they can break it down. Right, so unless I wow them, they could have already guaranteed from that first moment of me walking on if I'm going on to their next level. So the fact that that's pretty much what this show entails a superhero to be is super weird. But it's real life.
I mean,
it's
that's
really
Hollywood for you, man. It's one of the last, like, staples of society that's still known for being racist and misogynistic and all this other thing. And, like, they're trying to become more woke, and you can see it, but it falls through. You can see it's fake. It's like, can you just be honest? Like, that's all we really want. But it's never. Maybe. I mean, I'm not going to say never because we can always hope it will happen, but it still hasn't.
Yeah, I would say that for the most part, it hasn't. The one company that I will give through and through credit on inclusivity without it being like this awkward, like, oh, they're forcing it, is the CW.
Yep.
The way that they have introduced trans, gay characters, actresses, actors into their shows,
Yep.
and they never make a big deal about it. And I find that to be, because that's what it is. They are in our lives.
I will caveat the CW where in Riverdale specifically,
Okay,
like,
yes.
It's annoying because it's supposed to be an accurate representation of society, and in Riverdale there were more homosexual relationships than there were like straight relationships, which obviously that's fine, but is it really accurate? Like, they're like, everybody in the school is gay, and they're like,
everyone in the school is
like,
gay.
Yeah, it worked. Whatever, the show's canceled, it doesn't matter anyway, but it always felt forced to me, so I guess that show would be maybe an exception. But Supergirl's a perfect one. They introduced the first trans superhero, and it was awesome. The characters.
Yeah. And they're gonna do it again with the show that I'm not the biggest fan that's coming, but they changed Gotham Knights, but they're changing the character, and I was like, okay, I had no real qualms with the change.
Yeah.
And again, they didn't make a big deal about it. They weren't like, we're changing it to be this, or even Umbrella Academy, the way that they have become inclusive on Elliot,
right,
and changing Vanya's character.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, but they didn't make it like they did it, and they're like, yeah, this is just what we're doing. We're not making a big deal about it. We didn't talk about the politician. I'm blanking on her name.
Oh, one quick note. Hashtag Homelight. I put the vomit emoji next to it. That's all I really need to say.
Homelight. Oh, God.
It was so stupid. But the politician, Bobby Singer.
Yeah. No. The
daughter.
Splody head. She can make people's heads pop.
Her name. Okay. Nadia,
Yeah.
Vicky.
Nadia. Yeah, Vicky.
Yep.
We got why, like, she changed her name, and I thought
we
that
guess
was
we should have
intriguing.
touched on that at the end of episode 2, because that's the reason Huey does leave the government agency.
She
turns
figured
out
out
it's actually the daughter of Giancarlo Esposito, or Edgar.
the adopted daughter. Edgar.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the weird thing, is we find out there's a foster's home for powered babies, and
yeah, which we also we get to see another character, the boy who can teleport. He was, I think, he like, there was a moment where a mother thought her son died in something, and we figure out that it's the same teleporting kid. So it's like, oh, he did survive. Yay! They didn't murder a child.
Yeah. Always good not to murder children. But I think that about wraps it up on the first 3 episodes. This episode's a little long, but obviously we had 3 episodes to cover, so next week it won't be as long, and we're gonna have fun. Noah, I hope you had a good time. Did you have anything else you wanted to say about the boys before we log off here?
Hashtag Homelight.
Gross. Vomit. I'm just excited to see Jensen Ackles, Soldier Boy, like, really get to... I want to see him really embrace that character. It's going to be super fun. A lot to look forward to. Obviously, there's a lot of other nerd shows out there, so this is one we're choosing to focus on. I'm going to do a Kenobi series review at some point with Coach and Noah. If you're also watching Kenobi, we'll do that at some point. But other than that, we're just going to stick with the boys for now, and then switch to another show at a different point. So love you guys. Thank you for listening. And of course, have a good one.